Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to Vedantu's JEE channel. I hope all of you are doing fine. I especially want to welcome all my JEE 2022 aspirants on this particular channel and for this particular session because it's a recap session for my students who are moving from 10th to 11th standard. Yes, guys, you know that this series started in the month of March and it's been almost 4 months that we have covered a lot of chapters from JEE point of view in physics, and there are many students who got to know about the timing and the sessions which are happening for 2022 aspirants. So, just to have a good bird's eye view on what has been done so far, this session has been brought for all of you guys for that purpose. And towards the end of this session, I will also tell you how can you cover up all the topics which have already been done, already being taught in the classes here. So stay tuned. I will tell you how can you cover up all the sessions, where will you find all the videos, and then by watching all those videos, you can actually come in sync with the entire batch which is going on this particular channel. Okay. So guys, let me start off with my introduction. This is me, your Suri Sir. I'm an alumnus of IIT Bombay, and on this channel, I'm known as Mogambo. Why? Because when you will crack this examination of JEE, maybe this year, maybe coming year, or maybe 2022 precisely, so Mogambo khush hoga. Okay. And you would also want to know the schedule that we follow for 2022 aspirants. So guys, this is the time of the day which you have to keep in mind that every day at 7 o'clock we meet here for theory discussion, and on selected days which are Tuesdays, Fridays and Saturdays when we meet for MCQ discussion. On Mondays and on Fridays you guys meet me. Okay, this is me. You meet me on Mondays and Fridays at 7 o'clock for theory discussion, and we meet at 8 o'clock on Tuesday to discuss MCQs. Okay, similarly on Wednesday and Saturday you meet Love Sir for theory, and 8 o'clock on Friday you meet him for MCQ session, and Arvind sir you guys meet on Tuesdays and Thursday for theory at 7 o'clock, and on Saturday you meet him at 8 o'clock for mathematics MCQ discussion. Okay guys, so if you are new on the channel, definitely I would want you to subscribe to the channel right now and press the bell icon so that any of us, whenever we are coming live or whenever any of our videos like this one comes out, you get the notification. Okay, so guys, let's start with the recap of all the topics which I have already covered on this channel for you guys. Okay, so these are already the chapters which I have completed, starting from units and dimensions to calculus to motion in 1D, vectors, motion in 2D, relative motion, laws of motion, and work power energy. Yes, guys, in fact, for by the time you might be watching this video, one more chapter must have got completed, that is circular motion. Okay, so guys, let's start. I'll give you a quick review and overview about the chapters which I have already completed. So the first chapter was units and dimensions, with which we started our discussion of physics for 2022 students. This is the 11th standard physics. Okay, so units and dimensions is obviously a very basic chapter. It focuses upon the fundamental way of discussing physics, which starts with the discussion of physical quantities. We understood what are the types of physical quantities. On the basis of their nature, we divided them into fundamental and derived. But the major focus of this chapter was not on the unit system, but was on something which is new for us, which is basically dimensions. So we had our fundamental quantities defined in the form of certain symbols, and different derived physical quantities were represented like the one that you see here on the basis of the fundamental quantities. And after that, the main objective of the chapter was to understand the applications of dimensional analysis. So there were three major applications that we talked about, which were to check the correctness of any given formula, any given equation in physics or in general in science. Okay. Also to convert a particular value of a quantity from one unit system to another unit system. And third one was to derive a mathematical expression or a formula based upon certain information which was given to us. Okay. So this is what we did in the very first chapter, that was units and dimensions. From there, our journey of basic mathematics started. So far, till the time you guys were in 10th standard, you studied a few of the mathematical techniques, and some new mathematical techniques are actually required to do problem solving and derivations in 11th and 12th standard. Because of that, we need to study the chapter number 2 and 3, as you see, calculus and vectors. Calculus is a mathematical technique. Those who are going to take physics, chemistry, mathematics as their core subject, they will study and they will learn this in 12th standard. And calculus can be broadly divided into two parts, which is differentiation and integration. They are actually just opposite process to each other. In differentiation, we basically try to divide things into small pieces, and in integration, we try to add those things back again. And from physics point of view, differentiation is actually a very important uh, mathematical technique. It helps us find out a lot of physical quantities, and we learn a lot of standard new formulae for solving problems. We discussed how we are going to use these mathematical standard formulae. Okay, it's actually uh, very difficult for me to explain differentiation or integration in this video. For that, definitely you need to watch the videos of the sessions that I have taken. Okay, just in nutshell, remember that whenever there will be two physical quantities, and if they are going to change with respect to each other, then if you draw a graph between y and x, and if you try to find the slope of that graph, that means if you try to draw a tangent on the graph and try to find the slope of that tangent, that slope of the tangent is what we understand as differentiation. Okay, and the reverse process, which we call as the integration, is the same way we say that if you have two physical quantities x and y, if you try to draw a graph between them, then the area which is bounded by the graph between x and y is what we call as the process of integration. So there were certain standard formulae, standard expressions and rules that we used in order to find out the expression of integration. Okay, so in physics, why would we require them? Is because x and y are going to be physical quantities, and they are going to change with respect to each other, and when they are going to change, their change will result in different quantities. Okay, after that, we move towards another very important mathematical chapter called as vectors. I'm sure you guys must have heard about vectors in ninth standard. Like scalars, the quantities which only have magnitude. Vectors are the quantities which have magnitude as well as direction. So till 10th standard, you only knew the definition of vectors. But now going forward in 11th and 12th, you will be doing mathematical operations with vector quantities. For that, the major objective of this chapter is actually to do vector algebra, where we want to add, subtract, and multiply vectors. But we need to first understand how we represent the vector. So we started off with our understanding of representation of vectors symbolically, diagrammatically, and mathematically. On the basis of diagrammatic representation, we divided vectors into these five categories, and then we moved towards the discussion of vector algebra, where we tried to add, subtract, and multiply the vector quantities. When we tried to do vector addition, we were trying to replace multiple vectors by a single vector, which will do the same job as it is done by a single vector. Similarly, sometimes we'll require to find out vector subtraction whenever we try to find out the change in a particular quantity. Okay. Similarly, vector multiplication will result in different results. Only thing that I can say as of now is that we will come across quantities like work and torque when we are going to take dot products and scalar products understanding in account. Okay, guys. So do watch the videos to understand how the vector and vector algebra works. Okay. So almost after a month or month and a half, our actual journey of physics started with motion in one dimension, where the discussion actually started in correlation with the physics which you learned in ninth standard. Yeah, we started studying the unit of mechanics with motion in 1D. And in this particular chapter, we talked about motion at a very basic level without actually studying the cause of the motion. So motion fundamentally will be divided into three types, or actually two types, which are uniform and non-uniform motion. But non-uniform motion is further divided into uniformly and non-uniformly accelerated motion. So what is uniform motion? You all know that when the body will cover equal displacements in equal interval of time, that is when the body is moving with a constant velocity. So we talked about only single equation, which is displacement equal to velocity into time. That was the very basic understanding of uniform motion. But when we started talking about uniformly accelerated motion, which got introduced to you people in ninth standard, that is the time when you start talking about the three equations of motion: v equal to u plus at, s equal to ut plus half at square, and v square equal to u square plus 2as. Okay, and the part which you guys haven't seen in ninth standard is the third part, which is non-uniformly accelerated motion, where even the body which is moving does not have its acceleration constant, and that is where, guys, the unit of calculus comes handy. Yes, guys, you can see that these symbols which we are, if you are feeling that this is something that you have never seen, then these are actually coming from the unit of calculus. So to understand them better, obviously you need to see the videos of this particular session. Okay, so this was motion in 1D. Then we moved to motion in 2D, where we talked about projectile motion. And in projectile motion, we got into the studies of very interesting cases. In fact, we had a good discussion about a video game that you might have played as Angry Birds. So whenever an object is going to move in this parabolic path, when it is projected with some velocity u at an angle theta with the horizontal, that is where the object moves in a parabolic path, which is what we call as the projectile motion. So for this body which is moving under this parabolic path under the influence of gravity, we studied it, and while studying this, we find that the body moves not in a line but in a plane, and that is why we call it motion in 2D. So for this particular path, we find out the time of flight, that means the time taken by the body to be in the flight from point of projection to the point by the time it hits the ground. We calculated the maximum height from the ground and the horizontal range that is covered by the body during the journey of the body itself. Okay, then we talked about a particular case in projectile motion called as horizontal projection, where the body has initial velocity which is purely horizontal, and we had its case study being done where we tried to find out how much time the body will take to hit the ground and how much horizontal distance will the body cover before it hits the ground. A very particularly interesting and typical question comes in this topic, which we understand as a question which involves a jet plane which is trying to drop a bomb on a enemy bunker. So such questions are solved in this type of motion of a two-dimension motion called as horizontal projection. Okay, guys. So from motion in 2D, we moved towards a very interesting topic which we call as relative motion. That is where we get to the essence of motion. We say that motion at fundamental level is relative, because whenever we say that an object is moving, we always try to define the motion with respect to a reference point. So when we have our observer also started to move, how the motion, what it appeared to be changes, is what is studied in relative motion. So when we talked about relative motion, we were looking at things which were moving earlier when we were standing on the ground. Later on, the observer also starts to move. So how things change when your observer starts to move is what we studied in relative motion. This is particularly a chapter where there are no new formulas, but a lot of new concepts and new visualizations are actually learned here. I would say the very first challenging chapter of physics, purely physics, comes in the form of relative motion. So in motion in 1D, we talked about situations where objects were moving along straight line. And when we moved towards motion in 2D, we started talking about objects which were moving in two-dimension possibilities when things were moving in a plane. And typically questions which we come across are problems where a person is trying to cross a river by swimming, or maybe with the help of a boat. Maybe a person is holding an umbrella, he's trying to run when it is raining. So different type of questions come across there. Okay, guys, so do watch this particular session, because you will come across the wonders of motion and relative nature of the motion in this particular videos. Okay, after that, from relative motion we moved towards the dynamics part, where we started our discussion towards the cause of the motion. So till this chapter, we were only trying to understand motion on the basis of four quantities, you can say: displacement, velocity, acceleration, and time. But we were never speaking about the reason behind the motion, the way the bodies were moving, why they were moving the way they were moving. So the reason behind the motion, when we start exploring it, is when you start entering into this part of physics which we call as dynamics. And in dynamics, we try to explore the reason behind any motion or any particular motion. And you all know the reason behind any motion or a body not moving is nothing but force of any sort of nature. Okay, so any force which will act on a body may make a body move or may try to make it stop. Okay, that is where the very first law that we study in physics come in front of us, which are three laws of motion. Okay, so I hope you all are aware about the laws of motion, right? First one is the law of inertia, second one is the law of rate of change of momentum, and the third one is the action reaction law. Okay, with respect to the third law, I would like to just state one thing, that whenever two bodies are applying force on each other, the forces are action and reaction forces. The part where we most of us make mistake is to not understand how the action reaction work. Always remember, force will always exist in a pair. A single force will never exist. Whenever one body, say body A, will try to apply a force on B, then body B will apply a force on A. So action and reaction force will never act on the same body. That's a very, 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 I would say, underrated and underused and very, very misunderstood statement by many students. So please try to see the case studies that I have done in this particular video, where I have explained how the third law of motion works practically. Okay, from there we moved towards the case studies where I explained how laws of motion work when objects which are in contact have a force acting on one of them, still all the bodies move together. When they are connected by a string, how they move together. When blocks are connected by a string passing over a pulley, how the mechanics work here. When an inclined plane is involved, how the mechanics work there. These case studies were very fun to do, and I'm sure that you guys will enjoy these videos as well. Okay, then we went towards the discussion of constrained motion, where things, when they were moving, they were restricted in terms of their motion, like the bodies which are connected by a string, the bodies which have any a body which is placed on an inclined plane. These bodies don't move ideally the way they would move because of the force which is acting on them. So when this will happen, we will say that the body's motion is restricted in some way. So we talked about three basic constraints, which were pulley constraint, wedge constraint, and general constraint. Okay, after that, we took our discussion towards the practical nature of motion, where we talked about friction theory. We understood that friction is a force which tries to avoid the relative motion between two surfaces. And whenever the force of friction will exist, it will only come into existence whenever there is a tendency of a body to move. And the force of friction will not depend upon the weight of the body, rather, it will depend upon the normal force of normal force which is acting on a body. Also, it will depend upon the nature of roughness. That is where this quantity mu, coefficient of friction, came into existence. Okay guys, so based upon this, we solved a lot of questions which definitely were based upon the laws of motion, because friction is a another type of force only. Okay guys, don't worry, this was only the discussion with respect to friction force in solids only. Later on in physics, we'll come across chapter of fluids, where we'll discuss how the friction works in the case of fluids, where we'll speak about viscosity and air resistance. Okay, then we moved to the last chapter in this series, which is work, energy, and power. And this is where the second law, you can say, which we get introduced to, not in terms of the number I'm talking about. Already the three laws of motion you are aware about by this time, but the second bigger law is what we come across here, which we call as law of conservation of energy. So we talked about how when a force acts on a body, tries to make it move, how it changes the energy of the system. That discussion happens over here. Okay, so we talked about the work being the quantity which is responsible for transfer of energy from one form to another. And when a force is acting, there are different possibilities. A force may be constantly acting and its magnitude remains constant, its direction remains constant, overall the force remains constant. So work done by a constant force was found, work done by a variable force was found. And after that, the discussion was taken to the types of mechanical energy, where we spoke about potential and kinetic energy. And for the discussion of potential energy, we required our categorization of forces on the basis of conservative and non-conservative forces. A very beautiful discussion that I'm sure you will understand, and you will be able to understand how the conservative forces get related to the potential energy. Okay, remember this is a very important session. Whenever you will watch this, try to focus upon the understanding of conservative and non-conservative forces. Okay? In nutshell, you will get the idea that conservative forces are the forces which will never try to change the mechanical energy of the system, while non-conservative forces will try to change the mechanical energy of the system. Okay, and after that, obviously, we had our discussion towards the work energy theorem, which is mathematical form of law of conservation of energy, which says that work done by any force on a body is nothing but the change in kinetic energy only. Okay, and then we had a brief discussion about power, which is nothing but the rate at which work is done or rate at which the energy is supplied in a given system or in a given experiment. Okay, guys, so this is what I can say is the discussion that we have had so far. Maybe by the time you are watching this video, we might have completed more chapters. Okay, so do watch the videos which I have already done for this particular series. How will you be able to cover up all the topics that I have completed? Means the topics that you saw the recap of. For that, all you have to do is go on the channel playlist. Okay, so whenever you go on a YouTube channel, you can see that you are able to see the videos, and on different tabs you will find a tab called as playlist. So in the playlist tab, all you have to look for is this tab which says JEET Lo 2022. This is the particular playlist which you will find subject wise for physics, chemistry, and maths. With respect to physics, you will find every chapter wise playlist starting from units and dimensions till work power energy. Each and every single lecture that I've taken is there. Do watch them, and watch them so thoroughly that you are able to come in sync with the presently ongoing lectures. Okay, guys. Okay, so this is for JEE 2022. I have already done a session similar to this, which is for 2021 student. This is for 2022, obviously. So for my 2020 students, that means students who are now going to write JEE in this year, the examination has recently been postponed to September month. So you are aware that on Vedantu we have regularly a crash course going on since the time the examination got postponed. So a new batch is starting from 20th of July. If you are interested in joining this crash course, guys, to definitely take your preparation to a next level and ensure your JEE preparation as well as a selection in the examination. For that, all you have to do, guys, is follow this link which is available in the description box of this video. When you will click over there, you will be directed to a page where you're supposed to put a coupon code. Apply this coupon code SMCC, and the crash course, which is actually worth rupees 24,998, would be yours for just under 3,000 rupees. Okay, guys, so do take this advantage. Do come for the lecture and get into the forced routine, and you still have ample amount of time to strengthen your weak concepts, bring your mediocre level of concepts and mediocre level of chapters into your strong and strength zone. Okay, guys, if you are a student who's still not on our Telegram channel, and if you want to join, then you can join by going through this link which is available in the description box. On the Telegram channel, we share the assignment solutions, study material, and daily updates what's happening on this channel. So if you want to stay updated with respect to what's happening on Vedantu's JEE channel, then definitely Vedantu's Telegram group is the place that you want to be on. Okay, so guys, I hope all my 2022 students who are new on this channel and want to know what has been done so far, you must have got a good bird's eye view on all the chapters that I've completed so far. And I've also shared the link in the description for the playlist which you can follow and watch all those videos. So guys, if you found this particular video helpful, do press that like button. Share with your friends also. If they are also not aware, do tell them to let their preparation for JEE examination continue during this pandemic time as well. And if you're new and if you have not done it yet, then do subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that whenever your Suri Sir, your Mocambo comes live, you get the notification. Okay, guys, so do cover up all these chapters, and I'll see you live in the sessions that happens as per the schedule that I've shared. Okay, so on that note, I'll take your leave. I'll see you very soon. Till then, take care. Bye bye, guys.